Trae Young is one of the more prolific ball handlers, scorers, and passers on the planet, routinely making even elite NBA defenders look like fools with his all-world dribbling skills, fakes, eye manipulation, and more. But on October 27, 2024, an unstoppable force met an immovable object when Trae came back to his home state to face the Thunder. In the fourth quarter, Cason Wallace was tasked with corralling Trae Young, and he did just that, stripping one of the best ball handlers in the NBA cleanly, not once, but twice in less than a minute of game time. These weren't lazy passes that Cason picked off either. These were textbook steals where Cason got into Trae's handle and just took the ball from him. I asked Cason in post-game media availability about the challenge of guarding elite-level players in space.
And then you talked about just kind of defending in isolation. Can you take us through like sort of what it's like to be on just sort of an island with some of the best players in the league?
It's a tough task, you know. It's you and him, and he's trying to show the whole world that he's one of the guys that belong in the conversation. So my job is to make sure he's not in the conversation, which is hard to do, but I take pride in it.
As I covered earlier this season in my breakdown video of the OKC guard dogs, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, and Cason Wallace, the Thunder have a rich history of elite-level defensive guards, with Cason seemingly being the next in line, learning under two of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA today in Lou Dort and Alex Caruso. Back in October, during the Thunder's 2024-2025 Media Day, I asked Alex Caruso about what he saw out of Cason's game on the defensive end in his rookie season.
Yeah, he's got great instincts. Like I said, come in at such a young age. You know, at his age, I was going into my junior year, sophomore year of college, trying to figure out how I was going to stop guys at Mississippi State and Kentucky. And he was in the NBA guarding, you know, all-pro, 10-year veteran. So just to start, the confidence and the you know, amnesia you have to be a good defender in the NBA, to kind of forget about the last play and move on to the next, is really impressive. And then, like I said, his instincts, like he's got a knack for finding the ball, rangy, athletic. You know, he moves side to side really well. I think once he figures out like the game, you know, like once everybody, that's what they say, once you figure out the game and your natural talent can meet that, that's when you really start playing. I think he was playing a lot off instinct and a lot off just feel for the game last year. I think once he gets a couple more years under his belt, like, it's going to be really scary.
And even with how scary Cason could be defensively in the future, in his rookie season during the playoffs, he was already an absolute menace for opposing offensive players. ESPN's Matt Williams, aka Stats Williams, cited during the playoffs there was a run where opponents were shooting 14 of 54 from the field, which is good for 25.9% against Cason. That was the lowest field goal percentage allowed by any player to defend at least 50 shot attempts during the 2023-2024 playoffs. Cason was essentially being thrown into the fire, matching up with elite players every night during the regular season. But this was turned up to an 11 during the playoffs, as he was tasked with matching up with high-level to all-world talents like Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brandon Ingram, and CJ McCollum. Speaking of CJ, late in Game 1 of the Thunder's first-round series with the Pelicans, Cason Wallace came up clutch, getting a game-winning stop on CJ. I don't know what the exact line of thought was, but all I could think about was McCollum basically embodying the Shaq, "I apologize, I wasn't familiar with your game" meme, if he thought it was a good idea to force a switch into being guarded by Cason in the clutch. Cason wasn't just playing spot minutes or only garbage time in the playoffs either. He tallied just under 200 at 198 total minutes in 10 playoff games. There have only been 15 players ever to play 198 minutes or more in a playoff run at 20 years old or younger prior to last season's playoffs. There's definitely a variety of names on here, but also loaded with star power, which I would say potentially bodes well for Caso. Playing big playoff minutes as a rookie is cool, but were the Thunder winning in Caso's minutes? In his time on the floor during the playoffs, Cason Wallace was a plus 32 in plus minus. Of the list of 15 players that qualified that I mentioned above, only Cason Wallace, Jason Tatum, and Kawhi Leonard had a positive plus minus during their playoff minutes. I know this is a specific stat, but I still think it gives some great context to not only how rare it is to get this many minutes as a 20-year-old in the NBA playoffs, but how much even rarer it is to get those minutes and be a positive contributor to a team in a postseason setting. After a bit of a cold shooting streak to start the season, Cason Wallace has leveled up in year 2. Cason has increased his production in all of the traditional counting stats with an improvement in points, assists, rebounds, steals, and blocks per game. Since December 1st, Cason is averaging roughly 9 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds, half a block, and almost 2 steals a night while playing in just over 29 minutes per game on 48, 40, 73 shooting splits, while starting in 28 out of the Thunder's 42 games this season. For reference, last season, Cason in 82 games only started 13 times. But enough with the numbers, let's dive into some tape. Cason is picked right back up where he left off last season defensively, as an outright pest and irritant for ball handlers, constantly poking and prodding at their dribbles. Cason a lot of times brings the contact to offensive players to jog the ball loose for these steals. I've compared him to the Honey Badger and Tyrann Mathieu because Cason just doesn't seem to care about physicality. He's constantly getting into the mix, playing with a lot of grit, forcing tie-ups against bigger and stronger players. He has incredible hands defensively and perfectly weaponizes them to generate turnovers. At times it's almost like his hands are magnets for the ball. If he even catches a whiff of an opponent's handle being weak or vulnerable, he jumps them and then it's off to the races. Cason's previously discussed elite defensive instincts stand out in his ability to jump passing lanes for steals too. I wouldn't even say I consider the way he plays passing lanes as gambling. It feels like if Cason's going to go after the ball, more times than not, he's going to come up with it too. At just under 6'3", Cason Wallace probably shouldn't be expected to protect the rim like a big, but due to his timing, athleticism, and instincts, he's capable of rotating off the weak side and erasing the occasional shot at the basket. Most of his blocks come on the way up, where Cason blocks opponent shots before they can even fully get into their shooting motion on these sort of low down blocks. Lastly, and what probably impressed me the most with Cason's blocks is his ability to block step-back threes. This season he's blocked 3 step-back threes, which is not a crazy number, but still it seems nuts for him at his height to be able to get to some of these blocks on shots that probably aren't even an option to try to stuff for 95% of NBA players. In terms of counting numbers, rebounds are where Cason has taken the biggest statistical leap this season. Just like how he plays defense, Cason loves to get his nose dirty and get into the mix on the boards. Where a lot of guys will give a half-hearted light jog to the ball, Cason is sprinting and at times even diving to grab these rebounds. Since his rookie season, Cason has added 10 pounds to his frame, which has really helped him box out bigger players. He was already tenacious and a fundamentally sound player in box outs, but the added weight has allowed him to be able to move bigger players more effectively, which has really helped the Thunder with how often they've had to play small this season. Getting into the mix on the boards goes both ways for Cason. All the same things apply to him, where he's more than happy to get in the mud and out-hustle just about everyone on the floor for these up-for-grab offensive rebounds. Cason also gets sneaky on the glass on offense. These are almost pseudo-steals in the way he sort of sneaks in and pulls in these rebounds when opponents aren't paying enough attention to him. Cason recently talked about his uptick in rebounding on both ends this season.
I feel like us being small for a good amount of time, we figured out that we have to crash a lot more and actually go get the ball. So,
like Groundhog Day, I'll always go back to the Thunder's offense being heavily predicated off of the drive and kick game. Cason, like most of OKC's roster, shines in terms of being able to drive, draw multiple defenders, and then kicking the ball out to open Thunder shooters. A lot of young players fall into the trap of driving, getting tunnel vision, and in the process only thinking about scoring. Cason does a great job of keeping his head up and eyes open, so that if teams do overhelp, he can take advantage of them with the pass. This one in particular was crazy, as Cason throws a frozen rope to the opposite sideline through some traffic that hits AJ Mitchell right on the money. Related to the drive and kick, Cason also excels when it comes to driving and dropping off passes, which really pairs well with the amount of high-level cutters the Thunder have. Similarly to what I said about tunnel vision on drives, a lot of young players can get into the habit of playing hot potato or holding onto the ball for too long. Cason has a great balance of patience in his passing. He's really good at allowing things to develop and passing lanes to present themselves for Cason to fire the ball into. His basketball IQ is on full display with his passing and just how quickly he can process the game and immediately act on the reads he's making. Some of these are just little things like waiting for rim runners and dropping off the ball when he feels defenders selling out to contest him, or even passing up his good shot for a teammate's great shot. But in the long run, they all string together for a big impact on winning. But it isn't just the safe fundamental passes that Cason can make. Occasionally, he flashes some real playmaking and high-level passing skills. Caso loves to sporadically bust out these slick one-handed dimes that he can dish out with either hand. He also has great touch on hit-ahead passes to whatever Ultra Instinct basketball beautiful mind pass this was. When Cason does decide to go to the hole and score, defenders better watch their heads because he will absolutely put them on a poster if they aren't careful. Especially in transition, Cason loves to finish strong at the rim with dunks to eliminate any chance of a chase down block. He does a great job of mixing things up on the break with Euro steps, turning on the jets, and blowing by everyone in transition, finishing through contact, and more on his way to finishing at the rim. Cason will also occasionally finish some dunks off of lobs. They are somewhat rare, but a nice wrinkle to have, especially with Alex Caruso making these passes to him. Playing off of stars with as much gravity as guys like gilgeous-alexander, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren has its perks. Cason frequently benefits from being a smart cutter, finding open spaces for his teammates to find him for easy points. And I mean easy, with just how many of his cuts end with him positioned literally right under the rim. Just like his passing, Cason is not just limited to using his right hand. He has great touch with his left hand off the glass, as well as finishing through contact and over bigger defenders. A great development that I've noticed in Cason's at-rim scoring this season is how he's getting there. You can tell he definitely put a lot of time into improving his handle over the summer. I really love this mean in and out dribble that he can dust defenders with. He has flashes and at times gives a real glimpse of some real potential to have even more responsibility and reps on the ball if he can stay on this trajectory of improving his dribble. Caso torched the Nets as a rookie, shooting just under 42% from 3. Cason's threes come in a variety of ways, but the lion's share of his shots from deep tend to be on spot-up attempts. Playing with guys who require as much attention as Shea, J-Dub, and Chet has some advantages. Those guys frequently draw double teams, and Cason is often the beneficiary, leading to him getting some pretty clean looks from 3. The Thunder's drive and kick heavy offense also helps generate a lot of these looks, but the most important thing is that Cason can knock them down at around a 40% clip. But Cason isn't wearing cement shoes or banished to just stand around for his 3-point attempts. He isn't exactly Steph Curry or Rip Hamilton moving off the ball either, but he does a nice job with these what I would describe as micro relocations to make himself more available as a release valve for his teammates to hit with passes around the perimeter. Lastly, on Caso's threes, recently the Thunder have added a little wrinkle with some dribble handoffs into threes that usually come from Isaiah Hartenstein. It's a nice tool to have to punish defenders for going under on screens against him, and hopefully can be potentially parlayed into helping him get downhill even easier as teams start having to respect his shot from behind a screen. I've been singing Cason's praises throughout this video, but that doesn't mean he's without fault. He still has some flaws in his games and areas he could use some improvement on, which is expected for any second-year player. Caso from time to time gets caught on some of these, I'll just say, bad passes. A lot of them are on entry passes, and others are just thrown into areas with too many hands around for the ball not to get deflected. I mentioned his handle is improving, and it is, but there are still occasions where his handle gets too loose and it results in turnovers. The floater is one of my favorite shots in basketball and a great tool for guards to have in their bag so they don't have to rely on finishing among the trees at the rim all the time. Cason's floaters often come up short, especially when he takes them in pick and roll situations. He's a super smart player, but in quite a few of these pick and roll actions, his indecision catches up to him as he tries to thread the needle of when to go up for the floater and when to hit the roller. He has been better about this in the past week or so, but I think more added decisiveness in these scenarios would go a long way as he continues to learn, develop, and get more comfortable with these types of actions. But what's next for Cason going forward in the rest of the 2024-2025 season and into the playoffs? I personally hope we see even more on-ball reps for him. After a recent injury to AJ Mitchell, the Thunder are going to need some help in the ball handling department in the second unit, and I'm optimistic that Cason Wallace can fill some of that void. Defensively, just keep up the good work and continue learning the league and personnel, but the biggest thing is probably the 3-point shooting. We all know Cason can shoot, and I'm not going to hold it against him with last season being his rookie season, but for the Thunder to win a title, Caso is going to have to shoot closer to his regular season standard of around 40% from deep, compared to last year in the playoffs when he shot 32% from 3. Every year you see role players swing games, series, and playoff runs for their teams, and Caso's shooting I think could be a major swing factor for OKC come playoff time. But what do you think? How important do you think Cason will be to the Thunder in the playoffs this year? Where have you seen the most improvement in his game this season? And in your opinion, how high is Cason's ceiling? Let me know down in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed what you saw today, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to my channel so I can keep making fun Thunder content like this for all of you, turn on notifications so you never miss out on any of my uploads, and as always, until next time, thanks for watching.